Week 18 action. It's coming right around the corner. Do the Rams have what it takes to beat the 49ers? Is it an important game? What do they need to do to have a successful playoff run? Will they have a playoff run? Find out in the next edition of Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. And welcome, everybody, to another installment of Sideline Sports Podcast. I am the host, Alex Naveja, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. If you guys are liking the social media content we're throwing out there, I know it's been a little slow with the interviews under the lights, but we will definitely have some this week. Please give it all a follow down below. We're on Instagram, Facebook, X, and on TikTok. And while you guys are down there, give this episode a thumbs up. Comment down below your predictions as far as Rams, Niners in this regular season. Can they possibly meet up in the postseason maybe? What do you think will be the keys for the Rams to defeat the Niners here in Week 18 and in the playoffs? And also hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. But without further ado, we've got to introduce this man. He's making his first appearance here on Sideline Sports Podcast. He's a staff writer at Turf Show Times, covering the LA Rams for SB Nation. He goes by the name of Blaine Grisak. Blaine, what's going on, man? I kind of appreciate how much you're taking the time to come on the show.
Hey, Alex, doing great. I appreciate having you on, and you're looking forward to this Week 18 matchup against the Niners and the eventual playoff run. I think Rams are a team that nobody wants to play right now, so we'll see if they have a little bit of a run in them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Rams have been one of the hotter teams in the NFC with just what they've been doing. They've just been well balanced with running the ball well, with Williams, with the receiving core that they have. I mean, a lot of Robinson chatter. Of course, Puka Nacua, a front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And who can forget about Coop? I mean, you've got so many weapons. Atwell, I mean, he hasn't been mentioned too many times, but as far as what he's doing in the blocking game and just giving these routes for these receivers when they come up with a reception, it's just been tremendous for the Rams. But I mean, let's take care of business right out of the gate. Week 18, it's a tough 49ers team there at Levi Stadium. You already know how tough it is to play there in San Francisco. What are your keys? What are you thinking? If the Rams want to come up with this win, what do they have to do?
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, kind of difficult to kind of, I guess, pinpoint what exactly the keys are. I think the 49ers are for sure sitting Brock Purdy, and I don't think CMC is playing. And then on the Rams side, Carson Wentz will be making the start, and I doubt guys like AD, Cooper Kupp, and those important starters play. So it's going to be definitely a different matchup than in the past. But I think it kind of comes down to those same, I guess, kind of basics. When you play the Niners, I mean, they're gonna do a lot of misdirection. So you have to stay disciplined on defense. Have to make sure that, even the depth guys like Elijah Mitchell are guys that are pretty elusive. So you got to be sound in your tackling, and those are things that the Rams have struggled with in past matchups. And so I think it kind of starts there, and then on offense, just kind of being sound and taking care of the ball. And for Carson Wentz, not to do too much against a pretty talented and deep 49ers defense.
And I mean, the good thing is you're going to rest a healthy Matthew Stafford. I mean, I think that was just a big time key for the Rams last year. They needed a healthy Matthew Stafford if they wanted to have a successful year last year. And unfortunately, with his injury that he endured last year, the Rams had to deal with second string, third string quarterbacks and just being the quarterback market. I mean, we saw Baker Mayfield. He had a couple of games with the Rams. I mean, who could forget the game-winning drive against the Raiders last year? But I think just being able to rest Matthew Stafford for Week 18 and bringing in a Carson Wentz, I think you still have a veteran presence that's going to be taking snaps and allow the Rams to possibly be able to come up on the win column against the San Francisco 49ers. And to me, in any sport, I think if you are a team that could go into the playoffs with a hot streak, I think you're in great hands. I don't care if you're a division leader. I don't care if you're a wild card team. I always say this is the decade of the wild card team.
Yeah, and right now the Rams, I think, are like I said earlier. They're a team I don't think anybody really wants to play right now. They were 3-6 coming out of their bye, but since their bye, they're 6-1. They gave the Baltimore Ravens, who everybody's talking about is this as a Super Bowl contender. I believe they're one of the best teams ever in DVOA. That was it, and the Rams took them to overtime. Ended up losing off of a walk-off punt return. So. The Rams are a team that they can kind of play with anybody, and that's dangerous for any of those top seeds in the playoffs.
And I think you just mentioned it just well. I think the Rams can keep up with any top dog. I mean, the biggest dog that they had in the schedule was Baltimore. And I think everybody was just like, are we watching a Super Bowl matchup right now? Because maybe next week or 2 weeks, the Niners would play against Baltimore, and they had no shot, absolutely no shot against that dominant offense that's ran by Lamar Jackson. I just feel like the Rams, they put up a heck of a show, and people are already saying, hey, if this is the Super Bowl matchup that is to come, I'm okay with it. And I think a lot of people just want to see some great quality football. And I mean, what do you think are the chances for the Rams to be able to do something like that, be able to go on a successful run? I mean, a rough first half of the season, they flip the switch and they figure it out, and they're just being able to keep up with some top dogs. Do you think that's possible?
I mean, you never say never, right? I mean, this is a team that they like. I think unlike some wild card teams, they are a team that has been there before. They were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Matthew Stafford has shown that he can perform in the playoffs. Cooper Kupp has shown that he can make those plays in the playoffs. Aaron Donald, this is a young roster, but they have guys that have been there before, and I think that's important. But at the same time, I as much as I would love a Super Bowl run, I don't know if it's in the cards. I think they can win a playoff game, maybe two, but I think they're still a year, maybe 2 years away from getting over the top and making another run for the Lombardi Trophy. But again, like I said, never say never. The Rams have players that have been there before and have shown that they can get the job done. So it's the NFL; anything can happen any given Sunday. So I certainly wouldn't count them out. That's for sure.
And while we're on that topic of the playoffs, I know earlier yesterday you were talking, or you put up a tweet just mentioning, okay, some playoff scenarios. If the Eagles win, if the Cowboys win, as far as where the Rams could be playing. What were a couple of those scenarios that you were talking about on Twitter?
Yeah. So really, you're looking at three potential opponents. Most likely is probably the Detroit Lions. If the Rams win and the Lions win, if the Rams win, they're playing the Lions. If the Rams lose to the 49ers, is where things kind of get interesting. You'd be hoping for, I believe, a Lions loss and a Cowboys win and an Eagles loss. I think to play the Lions in that scenario. But if Rams lose, you're likely looking at the Cowboys there as the 7th seed, which would be a tough matchup. Cowboys are undefeated at home this year, and they beat the Rams earlier this year, 43-20. So I think that's a matchup you're looking to avoid. And then I think as kind of a long shot scenario is the Eagles, and they're a team that they're kind of don't have an identity right now. I think any team is kind of wanting to play the Eagles right now. They're the opposite of the Rams, where teams don't want to play the Rams, but teams kind of do want to play the Eagles. They're kind of they've run out of gas since their Super Bowl run last year. But for that to happen, you need the Eagles to win and the Cowboys to lose to the Washington Commanders, which is I believe you need the Lions to lose as well. And it's a very far-fetched scenario. It certainly could happen, but unfortunately, I think you're looking at the Lions or the Cowboys there in the first round.
And I mean, essentially, you want to play against Detroit. I mean, again, playing against a Cowboys team, whether that's home or whether that's away, the Cowboys at some point in the fourth quarter, they took out Dak and they ended up going second string quarterback to be able to take care of the snaps because the Rams, they just didn't have the O-line to protect Stafford. You remember how many times Stafford was pressured, how many times he was sacked, how many times was he hit, and it was just the O-line for the Rams just had no shot. And regardless of, okay, we've played against the Cowboys before, well, we can make some adjustments. I don't like that matchup. But then you go up against Detroit, I feel like that's a little bit more of a favorable matchup, if you ask me, just because I feel like Detroit's year has been like this. They've lost against some teams that I felt like they could have won, especially that Thanksgiving game against Green Bay. I felt like that should have been Detroit's game. I just feel like it's been inconsistent play for Detroit. But who would you prefer? I mean, I think you're leaning towards Detroit too.
Yeah, if of course, like my preferred option would be the Eagles, but if that's it's extremely unlikely. So if you're talking about Cowboys Lions, I would definitely prefer the Lions. That's a team where if you would be traveling to Detroit in that situation. That's a team they haven't hosted a playoff game in 30 years. So I think that's a lot for that's a lot of pressure for them to handle to begin with, and then. Um, they're also a team that I think is a year or two away from really being a serious contender as well. They're a really good team right now, but I think that they still need a couple of pieces, especially on defense, to really take them over the top. Aiden Hutchinson is a really good player, but he's really their only really good pass rusher. That secondary has holes that Matthew Stafford can certainly buy some time and pick apart. I think that's a game that I would like the Rams to win in a shootout scenario. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you look at Detroit, and there's some while Goff has developed since he was in Los Angeles, that there is some familiarity there in the type of quarterback that he is and what he likes. There's familiarity there. So I think just with that and kind of the inexperience, the playoff inexperience from Detroit side benefits the Rams slightly.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, Eagles, if that's an option, definitely Eagles. Detroit, that's of course another option, but yeah, I don't want to play the Cowboys. But if the Rams want to finish up the regular season on a strong note, and if they want to put up some great football games in the postseason, in the wild card, in the divisional round, if they can make it to the championship round, what do you need to see the Rams improve on if they really want to make a fight? I know we've mentioned them being a young team, but we've also seen some woes on the special team side and more on the secondary side. But I want to hear from you, Blaine. What do you think?
Yeah, for them to make any sort of run, I want to see them play a full 60 minutes. I think the closest we've gotten to that is the Baltimore Ravens game, and they took the Ravens to overtime. And arguably, if Lamar doesn't make some crazy throw on 3rd 18 and that ends up scoring the game tying touchdown there at the end, the Rams win that game. So you want to see them play a full 60 minutes and be able to keep that focus for 60 minutes. That's something that they've kind of struggled with at times this year. And you saw it last week against the Giants, where for 3 quarters they're really outclassing the Giants in that fourth quarter, and they kind of lose focus a little bit, and it ends up costing them. And so I want to see them focus for 60 minutes and play full 60, and then yeah, I mean, you talk about the secondary. It kind of is. It's a situation that kind of is what it is at this point. They simply just don't have the horses in that secondary to really compete with these top quarterbacks and top receivers. You're kind of getting by with what you have with the Kel Witherspoon and inconsistencies with Darian Kendrick and Kobe Durant, and Jordan Fuller's made some plays, but he's also been exploited at times. So yeah, you're just looking for, I think, Raheem Morris to kind of protect those guys a little bit, and so they're not keeping up the explosive plays that end up really hurting you in big moments.
Unfortunately, we don't have Jalen Ramsey anymore like we used to when he was in his somewhat of his prime. They were still able to win a Super Bowl with him, and just what he was able to do with the Rams and being able to take on some big time wide receiver matchups. I think that was pretty big for them. But I want to finish up the show with talking about the kicking woes. I just feel like there's been a number of games. We can use this game against the Giants as an example. The importance of the making the PATs, the difference that makes between enforcing the Giants to have to score a touchdown or have to make that field goal. We know that Mason Crosby makes that like any given day. We know the resume that Mason Crosby has and what he was able to do with Green Bay. And the fact that he booted that, I think all of us in LA were very much like, no way this just happened. Mason Crosby just shanked this kick. The Rams are about to win this game by a sheer miracle. But how important is it for the Rams to get the right kicker going into the playoffs? I mean, that's another one of the Rams' Achilles heels, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a special teams unit as a whole. They gave up the punt return touchdown. There were six guys there to tackle the returner, and somehow the guy ends up getting loose and scoring a touchdown. And then yeah, the field goal kicking was again right now it's kind of something that it is what it is. It's something they didn't figure out in July when you typically sort of figure those things out, and they kind of stuck with who they have right now, and that's Brett Maher. And which he's probably better than Habersick, but at the same time, he's one of those kickers where we saw against the Steelers where he misses one, he's likely to miss two or three. So I think with him, it's about kind of getting him that early confidence, and giving him the easy kicks. In that Steelers game where he struggled, it was a lot of 50+ yard field goals, and I think if you can keep him within 50, I think with Rams he was 14 for 16 inside of 50 yards, and he only missed one extra point. So I think if you can play within that within 50-yard field goal range, I think that's fine. It's outside that 50-yard range where unfortunately, I think McVay will need to adjust his play calling a little bit to kind of play for 4 downs or play to go for it in those situations. Just so you're not forcing him into those long field goals that he may miss and then lose confidence for kicks going forward, I guess. Hopefully it's not something that ends up costing them a playoff game. It wouldn't surprise me if it did, but Maher was certainly a better option. Has experience, even if we saw what happened last year with the Cowboys, him missing I think 5 extra points or something crazy. So yeah, well we'll see, and yeah, hopefully it doesn't end up costing them a playoff win.
Well, there you have it, guys. Talking to Blaine Grisak, who has all the insight that you guys need for the Los Angeles Rams as far as what do the Rams need to do to win this Sunday to get themselves a nice playoff run. Can they come up with a playoff run? Do they have the necessary pieces to do that offensively, defensively, special teams, and the kicking aspect of things? But he's got it all for you guys. I will make sure to put his social media handles down in the description below so you guys could give him a follow, because he's on top of it, guys. Whatever you need to know about Rams House, he's got it for you guys, especially on X. So that's all the time we have left here on Sideline Sports Podcast. We thank you all so much for joining us in this one. If you guys like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what your predictions are going to be against first the Niners and then in the playoffs. Can they come up with a run? Will it be a one and done for the Rams? Would you like to see a one and done, or would you like to see a playoff run? Hit the subscribe button along with the notification down below so you guys know when we upload episodes. And once again, Blaine Grisak with Turf Showtimes covering the Rams for SB Nation. Blaine, I really appreciate all the insight, man. I mean, let's see what's in store for this Sunday and in the playoffs, because, yeah, this is the best time of the year to watch football. I mean, with all the playoff pushes, but, January and then the push to the bowl next week, or next month, I should say.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you love to be playing important football games in December and January, and the Rams have been doing that. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and let's hope for a small Rams playoff run.
And I'm Alex Naveja from Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and enjoy Week 18 of the NFL.